Welcome, 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 Richmond, surrounding areas of the United States. We're here once again for Led by God Thursday Night Fire. I am your host, Emmanuel Coleman.
And I'm Cheryl Coleman.
And we welcome you again. We are very excited today because we've been warning you on our last segment that we had somebody very special on our show, but we would not tell you who it was. I know we talked a lot about Black history. We talked a lot about Mary McLeod Bethune, but we are very excited because our special guest is here with us. Actually, you are part of our first on-site interview. Yes, that's right. Led by God Productions. We're on site.
On site.
We move. We're not always in the studio, so that's a blessing. All right. So listen, we want to welcome you once again. We hope that y'all had a great week. We know that there's a lot of things that's been going on, a lot of earthquakes or buildings falling, people losing their lives. I understand that they're finding little young children from something that happened a little further on in the week. But we want to give prayers out to those families. So we want to go ahead and get started with our show. This is Led by God Production, Thursday Night Fire. And we're here at Miss Emma's house. So we want to welcome you to Miss Emma's house. We want you to make sure that you go to Miss Emma's house. That's MSEMMAS house. And we want you to subscribe to what's going on at Miss Emma's house, especially dealing with Led by God Production.
That's right.
You want to thank you, say to the people?
Click the button down below. Subscribe, like, share.
That's right. And as always, we want you to get in touch with Miss Emma's house on the Facebook page and on the I forgot what page we were on. On the Facebook page and also on the YouTube page. And we will get back with you. Leave us messages. We want you to find out what it is we're doing in the future. We want you to call into the studios. And we want you to just be a part of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. All right? So right now, we're here, like I said, with that special guest. And that special guest here is Mr. Ted Bethune. How you doing, sir?
My pleasure.
All right. We're glad to be here. And we thank you for opening your doors to us. And we're here because the people need to know a little bit about some history that they never thought about. We talked to them on last week, on week before last, actually, about a very important part of our history, right? But we also prepared the folk to be able to be ready for some history that they didn't know about. And sir, we believe that history is you. So we thank you and we welcome you to Miss Emma's house and to Led by God Thursday Night Fire. So how you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. How was your day?
Great. Can't complain.
All right. All right. So listen, while we're here, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Ted Bethune. Mm-hmm. I am the great-great-nephew of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. And I live here in the North Chesterfield area. Mm-hmm. I've been living in this residence for over 23 years.
Okay. And
my interest is science, aerospace science. And I deal with manned and unmanned space flight, as well as astronomy.
Wow.
And plus I have other things I enjoy doing on my spare time too.
Wow. So before we get to the questions and things that we want to ask you, you said some powerful things just right away, that you were into astronomy and what else? Aerospace?
Aerospace.
And how long have you been doing that?
I started out as young as 5 years old.
In astronomy and aerospace at 5 years old?
Yes, sir.
Wow. So what can you? I mean, who taught you at 5? I mean, what did you get from aerospace and astronomy at 5 years old? How did you grasp all that?
No one told. Well, my story goes like this. At 5 years old, I was watching the national TV news telecast of a Mercury liftoff.
Okay.
For one of the Mercury astronauts, and I can recall it had to have been John Glenn, I believe it was.
Okay.
My parents did not explain to me what was going on the TV. For some reason, it's like I already knew.
Oh, wow.
I cannot explain it. The only thing I can say is a God-given gift.
That's all right.
And I knew that the man was in a capsule above the earth in outer space. Nobody told me about it. It was like I already knew. I can't explain it. Only thing I can say is God-given.
So the interest found you.
More or less.
Wow.
But I always had that interest in dealing with science at that young age.
Okay. Now, as you were coming up from that 5-year-old interest, when did you, get into saying, hey, this is what I want to do? How can I go? What school can I go to? Did you start out telling your teachers, or did they see it in you, or did you tell your parents and they put you in a school or something?
I taught myself.
So you didn't even go through the school system. You just went through whatever you saw on television.
What I did as a child coming up, when they went for the Mercury program, the Gemini and Apollo program and whatnot, I watched the telecast on TV.
Right.
And I kept up with it and tried to learn as much as I can from the telecast. Plus, when I was in school at the time, I would check out library books dealing with the space program, read those books and study them.
Wow.
And over time, I was able to buy my own books. Today, I have 20 boxes of books
Based on this.
on this particular subject, aerospace.
Wow.
So, you said you was 5 as a kid, and it was fascinating to you, and so you began your journey at 5, and then grow from there and start learning about aerospace and the scientific of science.
Yes, ma'am.
So, more like, you know how kids go out, they just want to play kickball, they want to play. You wanted to know about science and how life works as.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wow. That's fascinating.
That's powerful.
Because most kids just want to go outside and just play.
I mean, because I did the, normal things like other children did growing up. But when I was growing up, especially at night, growing up in Dinwiddie County, and when it got dark outside, especially like in the fall, winter, and spring months, the best times to look with a telescope.
Right.
I did not have those telescopes at that time, but I would just stand outside and just stare up in the sky. And look at the melodic cloud above me, which is part of the spiral arm in the galaxy we live in.
Wow.
And see all these various stars out in the night sky.
Okay.
Now, this is before they had all these city lights like they got today.
Right.
We're talking about the 1960s here.
Wow.
And even in the 1960s, what type of challenges did you run into when you were interested in these things and everybody else was doing other things? Did you run into any challenges? People looked at you differently or stuff like that?
Yes, I was looked at very differently. Some looked at me as being an oddball. Some looked at me as being crazy. They found it to be unusual for a black person to have that type of interest. That was the main kicker.
So back then, being black, you ain't supposed to know all this stuff. It's barely just begin to read. They let us read, right?
Yeah.
And now you done went beyond that to learn about the stars, and they say, hey, wait a minute, he's not supposed to know nothing like that. So that's and so when you did that, what kind of other challenges did it bring? Any type of they try to keep you out of stuff, any violence?
No violence of any, no violence at all.
That's great.
But there were some that looked at me odd like. Unfortunately, with the white as well as the black community, I have had some I would say awkward experiences.
Okay. Okay.
Some with the white community, unfortunately, it was racism because when they found out I was black, they looked at me and frowned on me kind of funny because their feeling was, what does black person doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
right.
Back in the 1960s, that we had a black astronaut. His name was Robert Lawrence.
Right.
He was an Air Force astronaut for the MALL program.
Okay.
And we had an astronaut candidate named Dwight Edwards. Edward Dwight.
Edward Dwight.
Yeah, he was an astronaut candidate back in the 1960s.
Yes.
But he never made the qualification to be an astronaut. But he was an astronaut candidate. But Robert Lawrence was a full-fledged astronaut back in the 1960s. He was killed in a plane crash. Had he lived, he probably would have flew one of the early space shuttles as a commander, no doubt.
Do you remember learning that in school?
No, I didn't remember.
Me either.
That's fascinating.
You're really blessing us right now with
Yes.
some history that people probably swept under the rug. So this is powerful. So what is a regular work week like for you?
Well, I'm retired now. I've been retired from the university where I used to work at for a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically my time has consisted of constantly downloading new digital pictures off the internet, and I burn them on the disk to save them for future use when I do another slide presentation,
Mm-hmm.
the digital slide.
So now you mentioned that you work with NASA, right? I mean, not work for NASA, but you in our talks you say you used to teach. Now, coming up through the years from your childhood when you first became interested in these things, as you got older, at what point were you able to actually pursue what you were interested in?
It's been a hobby of mine throughout my life,
Uh-huh.
and I decided I wanted to share this with the school system as well as the general public at large.
Mm.
I've never been an employee for NASA.
Okay.
I've been an employee for the state of Virginia
Right.
for over 30-some years,
Okay.
and I worked at Virginia State University for many years.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you basically just took your hobby and shared it as if someone who was employed would have shared it. But you are understanding that you have a lot more to share that most people employed don't share. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, correct.
Wow.
So,
So that's important.
amazing.
It's very amazing.
important. Because a lot of us, as Black people, some of us don't even know the history
Mhm.
of a lot of people that have done things down through the years, and it matters, you know.
Mhm.
So when you said you had this experience, and when you seen it, it's like at 5 years old, you were like, were you saying, "Oh man, this is awesome! I want to do this."
So
And to have that experience at 5, because like I said, most kids at 5, they just want to
right.
play, go outside, play ball, play whatever,
Mhm.
you know. But to have that experience, and then you gain your knowledge, and you just kept reading and learning, and sitting here listening, is like you have so much knowledge and wisdom, and you have the people that actually did work, and that you learned of those people that of things that you are wanting to do, and you learned how they did it. You taught yourself. You said,
Yes, ma'am.
when passion meet purpose, it always teaches us.
Mm.
Yes, ma'am.
It's like we just get in there. It's like we just go for it, and that's what you have done.
Yes.
You have got in there. You have gone for it because it fascinates you, and you wanted to learn culture of how everything works, the stars, the moon, and stuff, and it amazes you. And so it amazes me to sit here just to talk to you
Yeah.
and learn up a lot of history and knowledge about science.
So, in that, what she was saying, so at any time you have an interest in getting paid for what you do, it's just your passion that says people need to know this.
It's more my passion.
More of your passion, like you said, as a hobby, and that's what people overlooking in this world. Your hobby is more of a blessing than the ones that's teaching in the schools, because your passion is to teach them stuff that they don't even know, stuff that's not being taught in school. So that's amazing, and it's long overdue.
My experience over the years,
Yeah.
so I tell you what, I remember as a child coming up,
Mhm.
and I thought to myself, I would like to stand before a crowd of people
Mhm.
and talk about this information.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that was in my brain for a long time as a child coming up.
Wow.
And I've learned a long time ago that when you manifest,
Mhm.
think of things, and speak them out, over time they will materialize.
Yes.
And that's scripture.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And there's another scripture in the Bible that states that, how's that thing go? How you can, I can't think of the term of it, please pardon me.
Yes, that's all
But
right.
anyway, how you can make things materialize just on your thought process,
Mhm.
and then act out on it,
Ah.
and then make it happen.
Yes.
When I was married at the time, back in 1983, I remember mentioning to my wife at that time, I would like to go out here and do some programs with the schools and whatnot.
Yes.
And so how I got started with the school system.
Mm-hmm.
This was a year before.
Okay.
The programs got enacted back in 1984.
Mm-hmm.
In 1983, I went and found some rare LP records.
LP records.
Yes, they had some information dealing with the Mercury program on up to Apollo.
Yes.
And so I was able to get back with my old school teachers who had taught me many years ago,
Mhm.
got back into the middle school, and I was able to take these LP records, play them on a turntable,
Yes.
and I had the students listen to it, and then I would interpret it, what was being said on these LP records back to the class, and they
Wow.
asked me questions. And so over time, this was back in 1984,
Right.
and then over time, something dawned on me, I need to do something a little bit more better than this.
Uh-huh.
So that's when I got into slides.
Now, the slides, they came after the LP, you saying?
Yes.
Okay.
So
okay.
I started ordering some slides, and then over time, I started getting slides up in hundreds and up into the thousands.
Right. And those are the things that you showed us earlier today.
Yes, those are the
Wow.
tools I use.
Wow.
So these are 35 millimeter color slides.
Uh-huh.
They're antiquated now.
Right.
But I still have the equipment to use them if I have to go to a place that does not have the equipment set up for digital.
Okay.
But now as far as digital slides, right now I have them up into the thousands. And what I like about the digital is, give you as a good example, like with the recent Chinese space station program they got underway right now.
Yes.
I can get that information based on real time.
Okay.
Whatever
Wow.
they do up there in that space station, I can get it back in maybe about 2 or 3 days. Compared with the slides, it might take weeks or months.
Yes.
And by the time I put that information out there, it's old news.
Wow.
So it shows you how far we have gone in technology as
Yeah.
far as the media information is concerned.
So, Mr. Bethune, your passion at that time, that we know that you is a gift. We know that your interest was strong. But where did you see yourself? Where did you find the pride in knowing and give you that passion to say, people got to know about this. What I'm learning, what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, I got to get it out. I got to stand in front of this crowd. What gave you that passion? What made you think that it has to be done?
The only thing I can say is just a God-given gift.
Uh-huh.
It's just a God-given thing.
Right.
That's the best way I can put it, because I've always had a strong desire to learn about science, what's
Yeah.
out there, what goes on out there,
Uh-huh.
and whatnot, and the engineering behind certain things in science.
Okay.
And I feel that I have a mission in life,
Okay.
other than just going to these schools and whatnot.
Yeah.
I feel that my mission is, especially with our African American youth,
Yes.
I would be that type of man to get out there and let our young people know that there's a lot of great things out here now in society that we can take part in.
Yes.
Especially if you have a strong aptitude in mathematics, computers, and engineering.
Wow.
That's the ticket now.
Okay. Okay.
The jobs that people did 20 years ago, they don't exist now.
Wow.
The work I used to do at my job at the university where I used to work at, my position is it's going to be antiquated within the next 10 years.
Really?
The work I used to do back there, because it's going automated.
Wow. So you're saying if you got that math, that science, right? Engineering, that's what's happening today.
That's the ticket now.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Mr. Bethune. Have your kids. I know we want to see what their passions are growing up. We want to pay attention to what they're doing, but kind of influence them in those areas that he just said. You're getting a heads up of what the future looks like. You already know what the future looks like, and basically what he's saying, that because those are the things that's high dollar right now. So kind of edge your kids and influence your kids over to those areas in school. All right. So what you want to ask him a question?
So, were you shy as a kid when you were coming up? Were you shy?
To some extent I was shy.
But when you start talking about science, it seems like you just light up and you just go for it.
Yeah.
It's like I turned from one personality to another when it came to the science subject.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no shyness there.
Yeah.
I was both.
Right. So like we know that you weren't a popular kid because you stated that earlier. But in anything that you do you find yourself being like a systematic person, or do you find yourself saying, okay, I'm just going to do this thing and see where it goes, or, you know, kind of like a child touching a hot stove, you know, they say it's hot, but I'm going to make sure, I'm going to see if they know what they're talking about.
Well, over time as I got older, I took the bold step and going out there to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it seemed like when I stepped out on faith and did this thing, everything under divine interventions just fell in place for me.
How did you know which way to step? I mean, when you say you just stepped out there, what was the first thing you did to make this thing start rolling?
Well, I started off with I started purchasing LP records.
Okay.
And then I went and got slides, and I went to the schools where I used to go to back after I got out of high school and everything. Teachers let me in, and I did my program, and so the word got out among the teachers as well as the public.
Wow.
Where I came from, we got this guy here talking about this stuff here, and the teachers told me out their own mouths, we teach this science class every day. We don't know half the stuff you know.
Wow. And what? How old were you then?
At that time, I was in my early 20s. I was 26 years old. Don't have a formal education. Don't have no bachelor's degree, no master, no doctor, anything. Just a hobby. That's it.
And when they opened that door, they felt like they had more to learn.
I had some of the teachers even were humble enough to tell me that you know more about this subject, and I teach it every day. I tried for a contracting position at London Research Center. I was trying to get a contract job with the space agency. And the gentleman who worked in public affairs told me out of his own mouth, he said, you know more about this than I do, and I work here with NASA every day.
Did you ever, think about signing up for it then, or you just didn't want to?
Well, they had a program where you could sign up to try to get various contracts with the space agency.
Okay.
And I was not able to get that any type of contract.
Oh, there got to be something behind that, but
I think, well, me personally, I think it was bias.
Okay. Because for a man that had the knowledge that you had, they would have had to explain that in this time, this day and time.
Yeah.
But I guess back then, it wasn't anything you could really, you had to know how to do it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, let me ask you this. During this pandemic, right, my wife and I, when everybody else decided, oh God, I lost my job, I don't know what else I'm going to do. We decided to say, hey, you know what? We got to buckle down and like you said, you stepped out, start doing things that you had a passion to do, and that's what we did as well. So, in that pandemic time, what changed for you? In this pandemic time, what changed for you? Has anything changed, or?
I don't think anything changed for me, but because of the pandemic, I had to adjust to it. I just recently did a slide presentation at a school not too far from here. If that's on my Facebook page, if that's at a church where they have their homeschooling.
Right.
And that was one of my best presentations I have done in years.
Really?
Yes, sir.
And that was recently?
That's recently. That was back in, May? Yeah.
Okay. And so these schools, they just open the door once they know who you are and say, hey, come on and do it. It's like, I know it's a volunteer thing. We talked about that. Is it one particular school or several schools around the area?
I have done schools in Dinwiddie, Petersburg, Richmond, surrounding counties. I even went out to Virginia Beach one time, as well as upstate in Baltimore, Maryland.
Wow.
Over the years.
And
the Science Museum, and plus I did there was a program called Lunch Break.
Okay.
At the Science Museum. I did that for 3 years straight.
Okay.
On a visitation.
All right.
Okay. What is lunch break?
Lunch Break is a science program where they have various speakers from various disciplines that come by. When people are on their lunch break in the downtown Richmond area, they can sit there for like an hour having their lunch, and they can see a person standing before them doing some type of presentation.
Oh, okay. And you brought the science part to it.
And I brought the aerospace.
Aerospace to it.
And so the gentleman at the time, he liked it so much, he had me come 3 times.
Right.
And I got it all documented and recorded.
That's beautiful. Yes, that's beautiful.
That's awesome.
So
Beautiful.
the success that you have, I know you had a lot of personal successes, right? But were there any failures?
There have been some disappointments
Mm-hmm.
over the years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were some people that may have been, I'll say, envious of me perhaps, or jealous.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had dealt with some unfortunate, some racial bias.
Okay.
I mean, I felt that was a setback from time to time, but I did not let that deter me.
And so, can you tell us what you learned from that? Because, you know, nowadays we go through some failures and then people don't bounce back from it, or they don't take a educated look at it. They don't use that as a platform. But with your failures that you just mentioned, did any education come from that to you know, push you further, or did you learn anything from it, basically?
It made me more determined.
Ah.
That's the best way I can put it. It made me more determined because there's an old saying, when one door shut, another door opens.
Yes.
Mm.
And there's a scripture that says, God takes the simple things to confound the wise.
Mhm.
That's what I wanted to say to you earlier.
Ah, it came back to you.
Yes, sir.
So, when if you had an opportunity, this is something that I learned from the Pattons, right?
Okay.
That if you had an opportunity to say, I know one of my last guests was talking about time, going back in time, right? And so, if you had the opportunity to do that, to go back in time, to do things different from what you've already done, or to add more to it, what place in that time would you say that you would like to go back in, knowing what you know now?
I would have liked to have joined the Air Force
Mm.
and maybe got into electronics and computer software engineering
Mm-hmm.
in the Air Force, and maybe give them like 25 years
Okay.
to retire out.
So you think that would be a easier door opener for you because of the Air Force status?
Well, the Air Force, they deal with they
It-
do it with the national air defense for the
Yeah.
United States, and plus they do satellite surveillance and whatnot.
ah.
So the Air Force has a broad base
Mhm.
when it deals with aerospace and space.
Hmm. You know, I wonder if you actually have to be a part of in that service capacity to even get in there now and still, you know, help out in any way. I'm pretty sure for a man with your knowledge, once you sit down and present some things, they're gonna start opening up some doors now based on all the stuff that's been going on.
Well,
I really believe that it can happen for you.
well, today we have the Space Force.
Uh-huh.
That's part of the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And the Space Force, to me, is not nothing new because it was mentioned back in the late 1950s
Mm-hmm.
of a TV show called The Space Angel with Scott McCloud.
Yes.
I remember that cartoon when I was a small kid,
Right.
and they mentioned Space Force back then on TV. So somebody had a vision, and now we've got a Space Force today.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at eventually we'll have something probably similar to Star Wars, no doubt.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah. Because you had shared with us once before that you met some people in the Star Wars era.
Well, that'd be Star Trek.
Oh, Star
Star
Trek.
Trek.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I had met Jimmy Doolan, who played Mr. Scott,
Mm-hmm.
and I met William Shatner, who played Captain Kirk, and also I met Nichelle Nichols, who played as Lieutenant Uhura.
Wow.
There's a picture of her and I
Uh-huh.
on my Facebook page.
Okay.
And she came to Richmond years ago at the, I think it was the Jefferson Hotel when they had a Star Trek convention.
Have they had many of those since then? Or was that the first and last?
It was they had two conventions in Richmond, and one was at another hotel where Jimmy Doolan had visited.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the cast members, the original cast members, they're passing away now.
Okay.
I think out of the 7 original cast members, there might be 4 of them left.
Wow. So I guess when
So you are a Trekkie fan, Star Trek fan?
It's the term is it should be pronounced as tracker, not Trekkie.
So
Oh,
it's Trekker.
It's tracker.
Okay.
So a lot of people say Trekkie.
It's not supposed to be pronounced as Trekkie. It's supposed to be tracker.
Tracker. You
Yes,
a Tracker fan?
Yes. Matter of fact, I have all the Star Trek and Star War movies. I have everything as far as Star Trek is concerned, except for the Voyager, Star Trek Voyager, and Deep Space Nine. But as far as all the episodes and whatnot, I have all that. Except for the Voyager and the Deep Space Nine, those I had to get.
Okay.
So ladies and gentlemen, you can tell a true fan when he corrects you.
Yeah.
Because he don't want you to get it wrong. You got to get it right. That's Trekker, not Trekkie.
A tracker is a person, they believe in the idea and the concept of what Star Trek puts out. Now, the Trekkie person, as they would say, that would be somebody that's kind of like more or less goofy.
Ah.
They walk around in little Bach guns or whatever they have in their hand and maybe act like little kids or something, you know.
Wow.
That would be a Trekkie, but the tracker is the person that takes it more on a serious note.
So, are you a Tracker or a Trekkie? He's teaching us something.
Because a lot of things that was broadcast back in the 1960s with Star Trek into reality today. I mean, you look at your cell phones.
Yeah.
Look at your flat screen TVs. Look at what they're doing in medicine today.
Wow.
They got devices. I remember when they had the gentleman, DeForest Keller, who played as Dr. McCoy. He had this handheld device that put out various frequencies of sound. And what a lot of people don't realize, it takes the sound from the device to get the body back in synchronicity, I believe is what they call it.
Okay.
For healing from injuries and whatnot or sickness.
Okay.
So everything has like a rhythm pattern,
Like a rhythm pattern or a frequency.
frequency? Okay.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to play a game with Mr. Bethune. You don't mind, do you?
I don't mind.
Okay. All right. If you were on a desert island, right, and you could take one technology item with you, what would that be?
I would say probably a mirror.
A mirror.
I mean, a mirror is not necessarily a technology item, but if I'm going to be on the island for a number of days or weeks or whatever, I can use my mirror as a means of my rescue.
Okay.
Wow.
Now,
Yeah, because the signals will help.
and you
Yes.
could, correct me if I'm
Reflection.
wrong, you could use that with the sun as well, right?
Use a reflection of the sun on the mirror as far as an
Got
aircraft
one.
flying overhead or a ship going by.
I got one, y'all. I ain't that far away. I got one.
Sounds good.
Well, listen. Over the years, you've heard of. I'm pretty sure you heard a lot of advice given. Like you corrected us, and we appreciate that. So over the years, you heard a lot of advice given, right?
Yes.
But what's the biggest myth that you've heard outside of the Trekker? The biggest myth that you've heard or seen, right? That you over and over again that you feel that needs to stop.
Well, the biggest thing I hear people debunk about is the moon landings.
Okay.
You know, I have heard people tell me many years ago that they never went to the moon, but they staged it, you know, in a studio somewhere. It was all fake.
Wow.
And so what I did on my part, I investigated it on my own, through my own means, and I found out some things concerning the moon landings, that the moon landings were authentic, and a lot of people don't understand the logistics behind going to the moon.
Okay.
I remember them arguing about that the landscape, how the reflection of the lunar surface, where the shadows were not evenly like they should be. But one day on my job, there was a certain ground near my area where I was standing there, and I noticed the reflection of the shadows were different directions. And I thought to myself, when you have an uneven territory, the shadows are going to reflect a little differently, instead of like a even territory, a flat territory. And then plus, they have said that the space vehicles could not function because there's a vacuum in space, which is true.
Mhm.
But they fail to tell you that in space, the most abundant element in the universe is hydrogen.
Okay.
Hydrogen is a gas.
Okay.
So without that hydrogen gas in the universe,
Mhm.
rocket thrusters would be inefficient if you got a total vacuum without a gas.
Wow.
Hmm.
So why would you think that they would do that? What they would say those things?
Well, you got to remember, for some people, ignorance is bliss.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, you got people out there that's closed-minded.
Mhm.
They're not willing to learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
As my grandmother used to say, they can't go no further than the end of their nose.
Oh wow! Yeah, I heard that one too.
Heard that one before.
Wow. So, do you have any moments where you have like been down, and if you did, how did you decide to bounce back from that?
I use positive thinking
Okay.
because we all have ups and downs throughout life.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times I have maybe came short on something or got disappointed in something
Mm-hmm.
in life, but I would think positive. And I learned that when you think positive,
Mm-hmm.
positive things will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's biblical.
Hey, that is it. You're right about that. So our life walk, basically, if we try to follow the biblical standards. If people would take time out to just look at what's in the book, they would notice that our walk falls right in place with it. And I've noticed here today, based on anything that you've ever, any education that you ever went through, you always refer back to the book, the Bible.
I was told
Mhm.
before I started my these presentations,
Mhm.
I had people tell me that they're not going to let you in those schools. It's impossible. It's not going to be done.
Mm.
I had all this negative stuff told to me before I got started,
Yes.
but I pressed on anyway
And to prove them wrong or to prove yourself right.
to prove myself right.
And the reason I say that because, I've learned that, stop trying to say, go against the I told you so people,
Mhm.
and just do what you know that you want to do in life. Like you said, let them push you further.
Yeah.
We used to hear them say, thank you to my naysayers. You've helped me along the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I had my share of naysayers back then,
Yeah.
and I'm no doubt there's probably still some out there today. If they
Mhm.
thought they could stop me, they would. But what is divinely orchestrated for me is going to be carried out regardless.
That's it. God has for me is for me, like you said.
That's right, because there's a scripture in the Bible that states, "Whatever man thinketh, so that he is."
All right.
So if you think failure,
Yeah.
you're going to have failure. If you think on a positive note, you have nothing but success.
That's all right. You had the question I asked.
Is there anything that you would like to share with the viewers or listening, especially the young people in this day and age? What would you say to them?
My suggestion to the young people is what I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a very strong aptitude in mathematics and other disciplines,
Mhm.
I would suggest that they look up computer programming,
Mhm.
electronics, and mechanical engineering, and medicine.
Okay.
And also would suggest that to get a good start in life,
Mhm.
it probably would help to get into the military.
Mhm.
Give Uncle Sam 4 years to have that experience under your belt to help you get into the type of work you want to go into in those fields or disciplines.
You ever had one of those aha moments, they call it, when you're trying to figure something out, based on what you doing, and then you see what it is, and you're like, that's it. You ever had one of those moments, and you're coming up in what you're doing?
Off and on throughout life.
Okay, and that helps you get to the next level.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, not to say that it was easy for me, because it wasn't.
Uh-huh.
When I started off, it wasn't easy at all. I had to work hard at it,
Yes, sir.
and I had to make a lot of sacrifices.
Mm.
So what I showed you and your wife tonight,
Yes.
all that's from hard work and sacrifice.
Wow. You showed me your family earlier. Is it okay if we
Sure.
if
Look at the picture.
you let us introduce us to them again?
Now, that's me on the bottom,
Uh-huh.
right, with the next to my sister, Phyllis.
Okay.
And the gentleman next to my sister, Phyllis, with the beard,
Mm-hmm.
that's Donnell.
Okay.
And above Donnell is my other younger brother, Jonathan, and beside Jonathan is my brother, Stefan. Now, the young lady sitting beside me, that's Claire.
Okay.
And on top of Claire, that's her younger brother. I
Okay.
can't think of his name right off, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Well, the reason I asked you that is because my question was, family means a lot to you,
Yes.
and feel free to tell us just how important family is when it comes down to your walk in life. How important were they to you in your walk? Because I know you say you were the great nephew,
Great nephew.
great nephew of
Dr.
Dr. Murray McLeod Bethune,
Yes, sir.
and so that type of generation history. And you also gave me another one.
Phil Gibson.
Phil Gibson. For y'all that don't know Phil Gibson, she was a powerful
She was a tennis player.
player.
And she was the first black woman to win Wimbledon in 1957. If I'm correct on that.
And I just saw a documentary of that. Just the beginning of this pandemic. I just took my time out to watch that. That was very interesting. But I did, just to know that you're connected to that history. So family must mean a lot to you, and they've been an influence in your life.
I did not know anything about Dr. Murray McLeod Bethune until I was 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that on a calendar,
Mm-hmm.
and I figured, well, she must be another Bethune of his family,
Yeah.
there. Until my grandmother told me otherwise.
Okay.
And I started investigating it.
Yes.
Started looking up, and I was like, oh my God,
Wow.
I got a famous person in my family.
Right.
And then, but it didn't make me, change my persona or anything. But I
Yes,
was
sir.
very happy to know about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then to find out that I was also related to Althea Gibson,
Yes.
because she lived up in the state of New Jersey before
Yes.
she passed away. She was in her 70s when she passed.
Wow. Wow.
That's awesome. Awesome. Oh, listen, we've been learning some good history from Mr. Ted Bethune.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't stress it enough. Would you say that information is knowledge, is powerful when you got the right teaching?
I have to agree.
Okay.
Knowledge is power.
Yes, sir.
And like I told you, I got 20 boxes of books stored away in right now.
Wow.
And what I can't get off the internet, if
Mhm.
it's not available, I can go back to my books, vice versa.
Okay.
And prior to me doing the presentation, I always ask every person that asked me to do a presentation before the class or audience,
Mhm.
give me 2 weeks,
Okay.
because I need 2 weeks to put the presentation together,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
to do my research and other information.
Okay.
And just like anything else, we all have moments where so much goes on in our life that that puts us in this, what they used to call a funk, right? What do you ever have times when you have to reset? And if so, do you go to family? What do you do to reset? I mean, because you have a lot of things going on, a lot of things you do, a lot of things that you press forward to get these people like us to listen to. And so you get those moments where you get frustrated. How do you reset?
I pray.
Mm-hmm.
I'm serious. I literally get on my knees and I pray. I make my petitions with the Most High,
Yes, sir.
and my answers are always given to me.
Mm.
That's the only way I can give. That's the only way I can give it out there. I mean, I get on my knees and I pray.
That's powerful.
And even when I do a presentation,
Uh-huh.
prior to doing it,
Yeah.
I pray about it.
Wow.
In order to be successful in whatever you go about in life,
Yes.
recognize the Most High.
All
Yes.
right. So, in that too, what are you mentioned in the beginning, there's a lot of things that you were connected to. Can you share with the people one more time all of the things that you're connected to, maybe some things that you may have coming up that we need to keep our eyes focused on, and some things that you would like to happen?
Well, my goal is I would like to do this on a part-time basis
Mm-hmm.
and just work like 3 days a week
Mm-hmm.
and get compensated for it,
Mm-hmm.
and share this information and the good news to everybody about what's out there that can be offered to our young folks,
Okay.
whether it be of African American culture
Yeah.
or other cultures.
Great.
Because I want to see us as a nation on top.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And I thank you for that. I do. Me sitting here, I shared with the listeners on our last show that I didn't listen in history class or science because I didn't know. And I was one of those ones that if I didn't know, I didn't want nobody else to know that I didn't know. So, so I did things that they know I could do, and that's to make everybody laugh. But they got me through, and I did what I could do or had to do to pass the test. But to get the knowledge and how important this was, it wasn't right here. I started getting that later on in the years, how important this stuff was. And these things that I'm learning now, even with doing these shows and meeting these different people, is educational to me. And I thank God for it. And I thank God for you taking time out to let us come in and share things. And I thank you for giving us permission to go back and look at your Facebook page. Now we encourage everyone to go back and look at Mr. Ted Bethune's Facebook page and see all of the history, things that he has done. And we're going to stay in tune, in touch with him, so that we can help him move forward in his vision of things that he wants to do. We ask that you all reach out to us, anybody that knows or have connections on doors that need to be open for him to come in. These young people, they're smarter now. These young people are very sharp now, but they're sharp in a lot of the negative ways and not the positive ways. So help us and Mr. Bethune bring this science that he has, the knowledge that he has about the stars, the moons, the technologies that we need to know to our young people on another level other than what they're teaching us in school. Think about that for a minute. Teachers have told him, you know more than I do, and I went to school for it. He has the knowledge that was given by God to him. To make a teacher say that,
Knowledge is power.
and God is all power.
Amen.
So think about that. So we're going to be sharing this information and other information as often as we can. But we know now that a lot of this information that we're getting is long overdue. It's hidden from us. And so in honor of Black history, look at God.
Hidden figures.
Yeah, look at God. So we are honored to be a part of what you're doing.
Thank you.
We want to let everybody know that we're going to help push as much as we can to get you in those doors, and by any means necessary.
Thank you.
And also know we're going to believe God that you will be compensated for your knowledge, because it has to be done. I appreciate you.
Yes.
We're going to be showing some photos later on that you can actually touch bases with, because some of this equipment I've never seen before, and it's amazing to me, and you need to see it. So maybe we can set something up that people can come and view, if it's not against whatever it is that they said that you could do as far as the equipment. So we'll talk about that.
That'll be fine.
All right. So ladies and gentlemen, we thank you again for joining us again for another episode of Led by God Thursday Night Fire. And we want to encourage you to push our young people to greater things, to greater knowledge, as you can see that it is possible. All right? And so, as always, I'm Emmanuel Coleman.
And I'm Cheryl Coleman.
And we always say, where he takes you, you never know. God bless you.